the stupid tax I paid was $250, Tom.
Nice. Good job. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Basic AF. Tom Anderson, as always, joined by Jeff Battersby. Hello, Jeff.
Good morning, Tom Anderson. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I had a busy couple of weeks, man. I just opened my first restaurant, not mine, but I am lead bartender at a new bar and restaurant barbecue place. Food's fantastic in Beacon, New York, called the Piggy Bank 2-0. And so we just yesterday had our super big opening party, which was bonkers. I'm a little disappointed because my health app, the gentler workouts or whatever the heck it's called, it didn't pick up what I was doing yesterday. And I had 4 bartenders on. The place was wall to wall, and it was loud bands. I'm an old man, so I had earplugs in the whole time. The bands were supposed to start outside, and we got pouring rain. So they were inside. It's an old bank, so it was cavernous and loud because, of course, the band was parked near the end of the bar. But I was working harder than I do for anything like hiking or doing, going for a walk or anything like that. I
thought you were going to say than I do for this podcast.
Well, that goes without saying.
Right.
I don't do any work for this podcast, but I'm lifting, cleaning dishes, lifting up the stuff, walking back and forth. I played bar back yesterday and I was, supporting the 4 bartenders that I had on. I lifted more weights than you do on a normal basis, lifting up glassware above everybody and walking from one end of the bar to the other. And the gentler app said to me this morning, well, you could probably do a little more work today. You can. It's like, okay,
get to work,
pal.
Battersby.
Yeah, what I need to do is I need to add a workout that says bartending, and then have it be what I'm doing all day, and then I will actually get a workout. But
it's like your mom hacked your gentler streak. Get to work, Jeff.
yeah, right. Get to work, Jeff. Mom, stop it.
Yeah, she's great.
And then the other thing, we're opening a play on. You're getting this on Monday. We are in Tech Week this week. We're running the show, and we open on Friday. So I have been going nonstop. I go from one thing to the next. I was at the theater in the morning, at the bar until 1:15. I slept until 9 though, so I got a good 7 hours sleep, which is my.
Well, you walked kind of delicately into the studio there. So
I
stumbled a bit.
I'm looking less like our robots today. I'm looking like the baggy eye. I'm looking like Tom.
Yeah, we've switched roles. I'm well rested.
Yeah, you're well rested with baggy eyes, and I look like I haven't slept in 4 days. But
I've been binger.
Well. How about you, Tom? What's up with you
good.
these days?
Yeah, everything's good. Coming up into the warmer days, I've had to mow a couple of times, which is not what this show is about. So let's just get back on topic.
All right.
Allergies have been killing me. That's where I was heading with that. So we had some more rain and windy. It's cooler today, which is good. There we go. Old man talking about the weather. This is Basic AF episode 60, by the way.
The show where we talk about our bunions and
show notes can be found at basicafshow.com/60. So this week I've been trying to figure out a way to listen to more podcasts.
Good for you.
So as we've talked about a little bit here and there on the show, when I was commuting from, into the city for work, I'd have an hour and a half each way. So I was listening to a lot more podcasts, and that's where I tend to do it. I don't like to do it when I'm actually working because I find it's distracting. Mm-hmm. And so my commute these days, and for the last, 15 years, I guess, is roughly 20 minutes a day.
Okay.
25 at most. So 15 one way. It takes about a week to listen to an hour-long podcast. Because a lot of days, exactly. And so a lot of days, I'm coming home. I don't usually listen to anything coming home because that's kind of like my quiet time after work to kind of context shift and say, okay, work's done. Let's just chill out for a few minutes driving home. And so anyway, I'm looking at some ways to get more podcast, quote unquote, listening in, but we're going to talk about that in a later show. That's not really what we're talking about today. But that led me, the app I'm looking at for that, plus another one, led me into looking at all of my subscriptions because these are going to be 2 more subscriptions. And so I was like, well, let me see what I have subscription-wise now. And because I feel like my subscriptions are not necessarily out of control. Like I'm aware of everything that I've had, but it's been a while since I've put a list together just to see exactly what it is, who I'm paying it to, when, and those kinds of things. And so I did that, and I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of subscriptions, like a lot of subscriptions. And they're not all apps. They're not all just for me. Some of them are shared, and we're going to dig into the list here in a couple of minutes. So I thought it would be good to look at that and kind of compare. I know we've got some similar things that we're subscribed to. Of course, they're not all the same, but look at that and talk about how I went about the audit process, and then what I'm doing to try to rein that in a little bit.
Okay.
So we have a lot. So I put together a list, and this does not include Apple Care. So I've got Apple Care on not everything that I have from Apple, but a lot of things. So phones, our phones have it. My iPad Pro has it. My Apple Watch has it. And they're not very expensive. I think the phone I think is the most expensive one. It's $10.26 a month or something like that. Yeah. Do you have that for your phone?
Yeah. So, and because I just hit the initial Apple Care, the end of that, I'm getting all the renewal notices for those things, include for my MacBook Pro and my iPad Pro, which were stolen at the same time. So 2 renewals there as well. And yeah, I do have those. I have several subscriptions on that. So I have Apple Care Plus for my iPad Pro.
Yep.
And then on my MacBook Pro, which I still love, by the way, I have both Beats and I have AirPods. So I have those on my watch. And then I have Apple Care Plus Theft and Loss for my phone. So yeah, I have a few of those, and they're surprisingly inexpensive as those things go. I mean, it's insurance, like insurance for your car, right? Which my car insurance, we can have that conversation. Just kick those dudes to the curb. But yeah, I do have Apple Care on everything, and that comes up by itself to a pretty decent sized annual subscription package. I'm looking at probably close to 210 between all those devices a year.
Right.
So yeah, I do.
Right.
But I'm grateful to have it, for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny, usually like appliances and things I don't do the extended warranties on, but for Apple stuff I will. Laptop in particular, the Mac Mini I did not.
Same with
go
me.
Anywhere. And I'm
like, it's right.
Where's it going? And there's so relatively inexpensive to replace. It's like, I'll self-insure that. So yeah, I've got Apple Care for all those things. And like you, it's probably a couple $100 a year. Like I said, I didn't put it in the list yet for some reason. But so I also included some streaming services. So like Amazon Prime, which I don't really watch the video piece, but we have Amazon Prime. Comes out to $139 a year now. It used to be $99, I think it was. So that's
$99, and now you have to pay more. By the way, if you're doing the streaming stuff, which this pisses me off too. Sorry, but it used to be if you had Amazon Prime, you had no ads, and now they added a little bump to that where you have to pay to have no ads.
No
it's
ads.
Criminal as far as I'm concerned, but
right. Yeah, so that comes out to $139 a year. Netflix, which keeps creeping up as well, is now $18 a month for the plan that we have anyway. So that's $215 a year. So already I'm up to $380. I think that is. $360 a year between those two. But that's the only streaming service, unless you want to throw Apple TV Plus in, which is part of Apple One Premiere. Are you on the Premiere on that as well?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Yeah. And so I looked at that. We talked about this. I looked at that when they raised the price from, because I think that started at $29.95. They went up to $32, and now it's $37.95. So that's a lot. That's $455 a year.
Yeah.
And I looked at that to say, okay, maybe I don't need the Premiere level of that. Maybe I could drop it down. And that's when we joked that I found out the wife is a big News Plus reader. So I was like, okay, we're not going to touch that. We'll leave that where it is.
Smart boy.
And so but with that, so those are kind of the big ones for me, right? So it's $455 for that. On top of that, $360. So I'm already at like $800 a year.
Okay. And you're not doing any other streaming services besides that,
right? Yeah, just those three. If you want to include Prime Video, which I don't think anyone here really watches. I think my son will watch stuff every now and then because he asks for the login, but not a whole lot. Now, some of these fall into the category of hobby.
Okay.
And so some people play golf, some people go on, they take trips. Some people
you sit in your basement and do what, Tom? Tell me the truth.
I sit in the closet and talk to Jeff.
Right.
Yeah.
You can come out of the closet, Tom.
We're
okay.
living our best lives here, Jeff.
2025, pal.
But, so there's some cost with this. So if we look at that, so podcast, we split the cost for that.
Yep.
So Buzzsprout, which is our
with all the money we're making off of it.
Right. Well, it's pennies compared to the revenue that's coming in.
Try.
Yeah, so we've got Riverside, which is what we host, we use for recording this show, which says $19 a month. I think it is. Buzzsprout's the distributor, so that's $18, so that's $37. And then I've got a subscription outside of this that's for Beehive, which is the newsletter platform that I use, and it's $59 a month. So that's $708 a year just for that. And I throw that into the hobby pile. And it's also a bit of an insurance policy of sorts. I kind of subscribe to the thought that everybody should build some sort of an audience so that they have a plan B should plan A of their current employment situation go off the rails. They have something. And
that's like managing a bar. Go ahead.
And so I use it for that. But that's $700. So I'm well over $1,000 between all of those just this far. Okay. What else do you have? Do you have any?
So I have a couple of other streaming services. I'm sorry, say that again.
You have magazines and streaming services.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I do. I'm avid newspaper reader and magazines of particular sorts and types. Just to that's I'm a reader in a big way anyway. But I do. I have a couple more streaming services. I do have Paramount Plus. I do have Hulu. And I do have Peacock. A lot of times I'll pick those up and drop them depending on what's going on, just to be able to say, watch a particular sport. I am a European soccer fan, so I do not subscribe to the MLS on Apple TV Plus, but I do watch either Paramount Plus or Peacock. I like to watch, the Premier League and those kinds of things. And by the way, it's not usually a sit down on my butt and watch. It's usually I'm cleaning my office and I've got a game on while I'm doing that, or or folding laundry or doing some background thing that I need to be doing, or cooking dinner and watching a game. So it's a lot of that. So I do have those. I do have those subscriptions that I'm using. I like you have Netflix, which they used to have a brilliant algorithm. I will say that their algorithm stinks now. And these guys make it so hard to find what it is that you're watching. And one of the other things about Netflix that I don't get, and this is a side conversation for another day as well, but most everything integrates with Apple TV Plus. So you can go into the Apple TV Plus app and see what you were watching on Netflix and then go over to Netflix. It does not do that for Netflix. Every other app does that. So And it did for 5 minutes accidentally earlier this year. They made that mistake. I am also subscribed to Apple One. And then I do a lot of, like I said, print stuff. I subscribed to the Washington Post, although I unsubscribed after Bezos decided that they were no longer going to do deep dive opinion stuff. So I said, fine, you're not going to do that. I'm not going to pay you to have pro oligarchy content. New York Times, I subscribe to paper on the weekend. So usually before you and I record, I'm sitting upstairs reading the newspaper on a weekend and then coming downstairs to talk politics, because that's what this show is about. And subscribe also to The Atlantic physical magazine, Harper's physical magazine. Harper's, by the way, still the best deal in town. It's about $15 a year for some great reading, if anybody cares. And then I subscribe to, this is going to be way out. I have been bartending for a while, but there's a magazine called Imbibe, which is kind of a really nice industry magazine, but it's not industry. It's more about, in fact, they had Beacon, the town that this bar I'm working at is in, they were featured in it in the last issue, which is crazy. Nice. They went up and down the street and had a bunch of bars in there and a lot of conversations. Actually, one of them with one of my bosses, who's has another place that's right down the street that's kind of a draft beer place. Anyway, that was in there as well. All that to say, some of those subscriptions are bloody expensive. The New York Times, I was almost going to cancel and just do digital only with them, and they cut me back. But they were a solid $80 a month for just Saturday and Sunday delivery, which is bonkers in terms of expense. They cut me back. It's like, I think I'm paying $30 when I told them I was going to quit. It's kind of like going to cable, right? I'm going to move to a different company. Right. We'll give you a discount if you stick around for 3 more years. So yeah, for all those subscriptions, I'm probably paying on the order. I didn't do all the good math like you did. I thought I was going to be able to, but didn't have time this week. But I'm paying probably just for those magazine subscriptions on the order of about $300 a year, plus or minus. That's
right. Well, you said the Times was what, 30 a month?
Yeah, 30 a month.
Yeah, jeez, that's $360 by itself.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh.
So I'm spending money. The magazines are a little better.
Right.
I only had a digital Washington Post subscription, which, by the way, I'm using Apple News way more than I did. I have complaints about it. We can talk about that someday. But I'm finding that is a place that a lot of those, that centralizes a lot of those subscriptions. So the Atlantic shows up there, right. Washington Post shows up there, New York Times does not. So that's kind of a pain in the neck. And then a bunch of other news sources.
Did it used to? Was the Times in there before? I feel like it was there before. It wasn't there.
Maybe it
New
was.
New
Yorker definitely is.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Maybe
New Yorker's there.
About.
And that's still there. And that's free as part of your Apple Premier subscription. So you get the New Yorker, which, by the way, that's something that's stupid expensive for a subscription. If you go to get it on your own. So yeah, it's I'm for that kind of stuff that I'm really listening. I read the news every single morning or something along the lines of that, both for this podcast and both for my brain. And, so I'm using that. They're valuable subscriptions to me, because it's not just like they're sitting there doing nothing. I'm actually reading what's there and, sharing that kind of stuff.
Right. And that's kind of one of the reasons I went through this exercise, was to say, kind of to do this audit, to see which of these am I actually using. And then from there, I need to go back through and say, okay, I'm using it, but do I really want to continue to use it, or do I want to, do I need it? Which is a different question. And a lot of these are luxuries that are like, I could get by without it. Now, I know a couple that we both have. We both have a subscription to like the fitness trackers. So you've got Gentler Streaks. I have Athletic, Carrot Weather.
Yeah, which, by the way, I don't need that one, but man, I love it. I've got it on the talk dirty to me version of it, which is basically what it is. which it calls me an idiot half the time, but for some reason, my inner person loves that. But yeah, and that's a $40 annual subscription right there, Carrot. So.
Right. I can't remember which tier I got in on that one. But I tell you, one of the biggest things I like about it is, so spring and summer, of course, it's thunderstorm weather around here. So you'll get severe thunderstorm warning, and it shows you all, if you read it, it'll show you, 15, 20 counties that are affected. But a lot of times, because our county's fairly sizable, there could be a storm warning for our county, but not where we are.
Right.
And so I like that when it pops up, it says you're outside of the affected area.
Yeah,
I really like that. And it's just a good weather app. And I like on the phone, you can go in and customizing it. It's interesting because you can go in and kind of build the app to look the way you want it to look, which is pretty rare. Like a lot of apps, you can change colors and mix things up. But this one, you can really dial in to get it
zero in, and it will change dynamically depending on what's going on too. You've got the ability to have it, if it's snowing, you can see specific information, just related to what's going on. So I really do like it. It's a well-designed app. It's a lot of fun. And it's one I'll continue, I think, paying for. One of the ones that I have that you may or may not have is Flighty. I may not need this as much anymore. It's close to $50, $47.99. It's a weird price point, but what that is it's a very, very good flight tracking app, and particularly when I was traveling a lot teaching Apple certification classes, it was the best place to put all my stuff. And when I'm making a lot of airport runs to pick people up or do things like that, I can throw those flights in, and it gives you up to the minute, even better than the airlines, information on, whether or not a flight's delayed or, what kind of things that they might see, and you can track the flight. So whether or not I need that as much, I might be able to dumb that down, but it's a very good app that I like and that I use when I need to use it. I use regularly.
Right. Yeah, I've used that one a few times. It is nice.
Yeah.
Especially, if you're a heavy traveler, I can see why that would be a have to have.
Yes.
Yep.
I think we both have this one. Are you still using Frame Screenshot?
Oh, ShareShot?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It shows up ShareShot, correct. Frame Screenshots. Right. Sorry.
Yeah. Mark.
We've had you on many times, Mark. I'm sorry for botching your app name.
He's had a rough week, okay?
Yeah. Zero sleep. And
I use that one all the time. So that's staying in the rotation. And it's not much. It's $14 a year, something like that.
Yeah, 15 a year, but worth every penny. And really beautiful app on Mac, on iPad. And the more they do with that, the better it gets.
We need to have Mark come back on. Maybe we'll be good. Maybe after WWDC. See what he thinks about the new stuff. I am using Halide. I pay for a Halide subscription. It's $10 a year. It's your camera app of choice, correct?
It is my camera app of choice. Absolutely. And shout out to Chris Freitag. I did not end up buying a Fuji camera, but I did end up buying a camera. and I'm really happy with it. I ended up getting a used. I'd been shooting Nikon for years and years, but had not touched my Nikon camera in a long time. But I ended up getting a Z5, and I love it. 2 lenses that I got, but most of the time, the phone's what I'm carrying around with me. It's in my pocket, and Halide, their zero processing photographic style, if you want to call it that, I love. It really is a great feature. It takes all the, most your phone app does a lot of work for you to do colors and all sorts of things like that, or over processes in some cases. I really like this. Really like this a lot, and so $10 a year, well worth it for a great camera app. And so
along those same lines, do you have any image editing apps that you subscribe to?
I do. So I was using Pixelmator for the longest time, and now Photomator. And those guys got bought by Apple, so Apple now owns them. And I don't know what that's going to do. Whether that's going to be part of a pro photo editing app that Apple does, but yeah, I do use that, and I don't think that's a subscription though. It was never a subscription model. It was a buy and keep kind of thing. Yeah, and they update that on the regular. Really, really good app.
It will be.
So that is what I use. And the other one that I use is
Apple's
Acorn.
going to put it into the services.
Yeah, right. It's going to be in services. Well, maybe it'll go in my
Photos
service.
Plus.
Yeah, Photos Plus.
Great.
Well, everybody needs a Photos Plus. Yeah. So.
Okay. So I have a Lightroom subscription.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do. And I picked that up. So back in December during the holidays, I picked up, I think it's the iPhone Photo Academy course that is advertised all over the place. Yep. And I got, I don't know, third of the way through that. I need to go back to it. And it's been really good. And they have a companion photo editing course that is based in Lightroom. So I went ahead and picked up Lightroom because I'm going to need it for that. And I just haven't gotten back to the course yet.
Did you have any Adobe stuff before that anyway?
No. And so this is only I think it's just the Lightroom mobile subscription. Like I didn't do the Creative Cloud or any of that stuff.
All right.
That's all.
How much is that a subscription to?
Yeah, it is $50 a year, which I didn't think was terrible. And so that one's on the fence if I'm going to keep it. It just depends. Like I've got to get back to that course. And then if I end up building some decent workflows in there and stick with it, I might keep it, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's one of the things I like about Photomator, Pixelmator, Pro Photomator, is it's for me, it doesn't do the organization I think that Lightroom does. Which is one of the nice features. I don't know about the mobile app version, but Lightroom, has a lot of. It's definitely a photography tool. That's the beauty of it. It really is designed for that. Pixelmator is a photo editing tool, but also an illustration tool. Like there are a number of other things that you can do with that. The other one, by the way, that I use that I really like is Acorn. So I have both of those. It has, and that's a little indie developer, and husband and wife team that rivals all the others, and it does some things really well, like right out of the box that makes it worth me paying. I don't even know. That's a single purchase too, and I think I buy it directly from the developer. Flying Meat is the name of the
Throw them a few bucks just for that.
Yeah, right. And they are great. Flying Meat is a great developer. They do great stuff, and it's a great app. But those are outright purchases that I've got.
Right.
But Lightroom does have the feel of a photo management toal.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely workflows and things like that. And I'm not a power user by any means. And like I say, I picked it up for this course. But I feel like once I get through the course, because I have those other apps as well, Photomator, Pixelmator, and the concepts will carry over to that. I think for the bulk of it. Kind of a random one that I picked up, and I only use it at work, is an app called MimeStream.
What is that?
Which is an email client for Gmail.
Okay.
Because we're a Google school.
Sure.
And I used the mail app for years and years and years. And I may go back to it. It's probably, I don't know if it has to do with how Google does mail or what, but it just sometimes flakes out and the messages take forever to load, or they're missing, and search is kind of goofy in the mail app still. And MindStream uses the Gmail API, I believe.
Okay.
So any of the features in Gmail that are available via the API, you get in the app. And it's a really nice app. Like, they did a really good job with it. It's being actively developed. It's $5 a month. So not a ton, but again, it's just email. And I looked at Spark again last week as part of this, audit, if you want to call it that. And it did some interesting things that I liked, but then it was kind of goofy too in certain ways. And I was like, And I used it years ago, and they changed the interface up, 6 or 7 years ago now, I think. So I don't know. I may stick with that, or a MimeStream, or I might just go back to the old clunky mail app.
Yeah.
Because it's free and it's just email. So
do you subscribe to Office or no? Microsoft Office?
I get a kind of a +1 account through work.
Okay. So you don't have to do it. Yeah.
Right. And
I pay
never
for
use
that.
it. I use it at
family.
work quite a bit, like just Excel. Like I refuse to use Word.
Yeah, same. I don't use it unless I have to. What happens is Pages, Numbers, and Keynote are great for anything that I'm doing for myself. I use it for a lot of theater stuff that I do.
Right.
And the beauty of that is if people have an iPad or something like that, I can share documents and they can work on them. So my assistant stage manager doesn't have a Mac, but has an iPad, and we have shared documents. For example, during the show, like the last week coming into Tech Week this week, we're taking line notes. In other words, actors, as they go through, if they change lines from what they're supposed to be, what they're written in the script as, we send them back notes that say, here's what you did. You inverted these words. We try to get by the time we open the show, as close to what it is that we're doing. So after years of doing this, I have templates for things like that. And I just share those now in iCloud Drive with my assistant stage manager. So she's entering that information. We used to do it on paper. We would write these notes on paper and then go in and manually add them after the fact. Mm-hmm. Now we use those shared things. This is a little off topic, obviously, but I have to have a Microsoft subscription because I get Excel spreadsheets that I have to work on, and I get an occasional Word document that I'm doing collaborative editing with other people on. So I keep that subscription, and that's, not cheap a year either. It's not a.
I haven't looked at that in a while. What is it, about $100?
It's about that. I'd have to look at what I can look it up right now, but that's one I don't even think about. It's just one of those things that I'm using occasionally, and that occasional usage requires me to keep that subscription, which is kind of dorky. But there we
throw
have
it in
it.
Google Sheets, and that's free. Call it done.
Yeah. If you've got everybody in your world using Google Sheets, this is going to make me. Let me just see what the cost is. Microsoft 365, get it? And because others in my family have need of it, I do a family account, so it's $130.
Balances out.
Yeah,
more people you can get to use it, the better.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
At least then the value proposition
goes
tilts
up
a little more in your favor. Yeah.
Here's one that you probably don't subscribe to. That costs me $130 a year. I subscribe to the National Theater at Home, which is
oh my God, so do I.
No,
I'm kidding.
Right. On what planet, what alternate universe are we in right now? So National Theater is the UK's theater, which is brilliant. Their stuff's really good. And a lot of times, if you want to see these shows, you have to go to a movie theater or to England, both of which are way more expensive than.
So this is a deal compared to that.
$129.
Good cost savings. Good job.
Right. I saved money and didn't have to buy an airplane ticket. So it's all those. So I subscribe to that. And that's another one that, my kids use too, particularly my oldest daughter, who is an actor. She uses that to watch shows as well. So that's good stuff. That's not something I was expecting you to do. But what I did want to say, speaking of things in the UK, a mistake that I made, which is an easy mistake to make. I temporarily subscribed to The Economist to read a very specific article. And normally what I do when I do things like that is I subscribe and I immediately go into the subscription and cancel it. So that whatever the renewal date is, I'm not automatically subscribing, and I can make a decision as to whether or not I love or don't love the thing. Well, with The Economist, I somehow managed not to go back in. And I will tell you, Tom, for that mistake.
Stupid tax did you pay on that?
The stupid tax I paid was $250, Tom.
Nice. Good job.
$250 for a mistake. I think they have some other options in there, but that was
Did you at least continue to read it during the rest of your subscription?
I am still reading it. There are things I listen to, and they have a really good podcast, which you can subscribe to just their podcasts for basically $6 a month. Babbage's, which is a technology podcast that I listen to, that's quite good. So $60 a year. Essentially, but your digital annual account that includes all of the above is a fat $250 that I neglected to unsign up for.
Sorry, we've all done it.
Oh, dude, and that can happen so often. There's a lot of that's there, but that boosted my yearly subscription rate pretty significantly for this one. Yeah. So, by the way, in order to be able to check and see what you're subscribing to, I had to have Tom walk me through this because my brain was fried this morning. But if you want to see what it is that you've subscribed to that you may have inadvertently forgotten about, you go under your Apple idea in the settings app. Go under your app, select your Apple account, as they call it now, not Apple ID. And when you select that, there's going to be a media and purchases option, and then underneath that, there's going to be a subscriptions option. You click the manage button, and that's going to allow you to see what it is that you're subscribing to on the regular, and you also see what it is that you have subscribed to in the past. Another one of those fine subscriptions that I screwed up was Final Cut Pro on my iPad. That's cleared out now, but I accidentally subscribed to that one for a year too. It pays to go in immediately and turn the renewal button on. Off
right,
on
cancel
that.
it and keep it until it runs out, at least for the App Store stuff. Because I was looking at mine and I split them out, App Store versus Direct, and it ends up being about 50% either way.
Yep.
For what I've got, at least in the list thus far. Something that I know you subscribed to for a while. You got rid of when Bill McLean was on the show with us. We talked about it. Fantastical.
Yep.
My yearly subscription for that re-upped in February, and I am taking a hard look at that one. I think I might not keep that.
What are they charging now? What's Fantastical?
$4.75 a month.
Okay. It's not hideous.
Not terrible. And that's the thing with these. It's almost like a trap because it's
$60 a year.
It's $4 a month. That's nothing. And then it's like, oh, well, there's another $4 a month, and there's $4.99 and $2.49.
Oh, Tom, it's just a latte.
And
what are you talking about?
$1.25 and $8.25 and $11.58. And it's like, oh, now we're all this. Wow, that's a couple $100 a month. And so that one's on the fence for me because I'm I saw someone post it, and I'd love to give him credit if I could remember who did it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I was using focus modes to kind of do the calendar sets.
Yes.
Like I like Fantastical to do. So I'm not sure about that one. GoodNotes 6 is another one that I have. It's a whole $10 a year. I used to use it a lot. I don't use it much anymore, so I think I'm going to cancel that one. But again, this just shows how these things show up on the list, and they just kind of lay around, and to Apple's credit for the App Store related things, they're easy to manage, but if you don't look at it or pay attention, that stuff just kind of builds up, or you forget to turn it off, like you've mentioned there a couple of times, and I've done that too on some things. The utilities, and a lot of this, most people won't need these things, some of these things we're talking about, because they're kind of nerdy power user things, if you want to call them that. Strange term for these, but so things like, we talked about ShareShot, which is great utility. Do most people need that? Probably not. But if you share content and do a lot of screenshots with it, they're pretty invaluable because they make it so easy to do it and look nice. Paste is a clipboard manager app, beautiful clipboard manager app. I've had that for several years now. Do most people need that? No. But do people who do a lot of copying and pasting and things like that like these kinds of tools? Yes. Yeah. And it's not much. It's $1.25 a month. MindNode, mind mapping apps, $2.50 a month. It's one of those I use probably 10 times a year, but it's like serious work when I do it, so I'll keep it.
Wait, let me ask you a question, because you're stating these all as by the month costs. So are you, like, when you're talking about MindNode and using that, are you using it for a month and then dropping the sub until you need to use it again, or are you paying that annually?
So the ones I just mentioned, so Paste is an annual. Okay. And it's $14.99. MindNode, I don't know if they've got an annual you can just pay or not. It's $2.49, and I just left it at that. I just keep it on because I never know when I'm going to need it.
Got it.
Okay. So and so that's something I did do too, is for some of these, like I went back and I was like, okay, what can I do to save a few bucks? And so some of them do have, do annually, and you'll save over the monthly. And so I did go through and changed a couple of them to that and saved a little bit of money there. But like utility wise, like I got rid of Canva Pro, because there was a period where I was using that quite a bit, and now I don't. So that's the image editing, graphics design, that kind of stuff. That was $13 a month, so that one wasn't cheap. And so I ditched that, so that's $156 a year, basically, for savings. I had one, I only had it for a month or two. It's called TypeShare, which is kind of a writing app. They've got templates, and you can, for atomic essays or social threads and things like that, and it would format them and you could schedule them, but it was $20 a month, and I just was not using it enough for that. Some people use it a ton. Wasn't for me, so that was a big one I got rid of.
Are you doing a personal subscription to ChatGPT, or is that a work subscription?
Yeah, so ChatGPT, I have the Plus, which is $20 a month.
Okay, and that's personal.
Personal, yeah.
Personal.
Yeah, and I've got a Gemini Advanced at work that work pays for. Yeah, because we've got that data agreement in place with Google, so it ties into our workspace, and we can load sheets and stuff into it and all that. But yeah,
no surprise, I don't pay for any. I don't pay for any AI.
Well, I use it a ton now, so
I know you do. You use it for a lot, and I am using it for. I'm using Claude for occasional stuff. And I would tell you, it's really interesting, but one of the guys that owns the restaurant that I'm working at, that I'm running the bar for, he was having trouble with setting up the sound system. and the instructions were no good. And he was using Chat GPT, and it walked him through everything he needed to do to fix it. So pretty slick. He was really pleased with it. But yeah, for those kind of
this is great.
yeah, right. That's exactly what he was. So anyway, so we can kind of get around to winding this up because we've also pushed the envelope here. What is your annual nut for subscriptions, do you think?
Oh gosh, this is embarrassing. It is several thousand. I'll put it that way.
Same for me. That's the reality. It's several $1,000s a year.
And I think that's kind of where we wanted to go with this is the creep on this is so easy to do. Because everything is a subscription now. Everything.
Correct.
Your streaming services, your magazines, the magazines always have been, but little utility applications that you use, things like that. And so I would encourage everybody, if you haven't, build a list. You don't have to make it a fancy list. Just write it out on paper and tally it up and see where you're at. Some things that you might look at as potential ways to save cost. If you could do an annual over a monthly, maybe you subscribed monthly just to test it out and you figured out, did stick around and you're still using it, but now maybe you switch to the annual and you can save, 10, 20% usually there. You can do that. Maybe take a look to see if there are alternatives that do the job good enough. Like I'll still use Canva, even though I've dropped the pro, like the free does plenty for what I need at this point in life. And then also there's a service called SetApp. That is a subscription service for applications, but it has quite a few applications in it, popular Mac apps in it. So, for example...
Do you use that or no?
I do not. And I was looking at it because as part of this, I was like, well, I wonder if SetApp would do anything for me. And so basically the premise with SetApp is you pay the subscription for that, and then you get access to all of the applications that are part of the SetApp service, like CleanShot X, which is great screenshotting applications in there. MyNote is in there. Paste that we talked about is in there. What's that utility that shows all of the menu bar items? Like your
Bartender?
GPU. That one's in there, yeah. And then the one that it's been around forever, but it'll show you like the CPU cores, how much RAM is being used.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what that one is either, but yeah,
I can't remember what it is. So there are a lot of big name apps in there, and they all come as part of that bundle. And so the highest tier for that, I think, is $15 a month, and that covers 4 Macs and 4 iOS devices. And so I looked at that, but it was only going to save me like $2 a month for the stuff that I had. So I was like, that's probably not worth it, making the change with the licensing and everything.
Yeah. And then if commercially, there are other apps, like there's the Rocket Money app, which you hear advertised on every podcast on the planet. And except for ours, because nobody's advertising with us. But it's that's another one that will look at all your subscriptions and let you know what the deal is. It's a kind of a financial app, and I can't remember if it's owned by Intuit now or one of those companies, but there are. I can look at the bottom here and probably figure that out. That is an app that you can use to look at all your subscriptions and kind of control them in one place. If you don't want to do the manual work, it's not that hard to do the manual work, honestly, just to have a look at it and to see what it is that you're spending and that you're doing. But it's worth your while because, as I think you use the correct word, Tom, it's creep. It's subscription creep, and a lot of these are, as you said, applications that you may in the past never have had a subscription for. You just bought the app and moved on. I do like the subscription model because I think the apps get better support as a result. You don't buy one copy that you never pay for anything in the future, and then these developers can't do work anymore. But it's.
No, I was just going to say, and I do not mind paying the subscriptions at all for apps that, I use on the regular basis. So that, and I found out a lot of these I do, but there were those handful that I don't. And that's just another good exercise, though, is to go through and kind of and there's the financial piece of this, but also go and look at the functional piece to say, is this app still serving a purpose for me?
Yeah.
And if it is, and it's not any burden on you financially, there's no problem with it. It's just sometimes though, like you say, that old creep, and Jeff's got a $250 economist subscription that he didn't intend to have.
Sorry. We had to go to Radiohead when you said creep. Yeah, I'm looking actually at SetApp, and that's a subscription service. And you get every single one of these apps that are here, and there are a lot in there. Actually, it's.
So I know some people do use that as a way to kind of make it more cost efficient for some of those. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. I think it's setapp.com or something. But it used to be easy to say, it's just a .com, but these days it could be setapp.app. Who knows?
It is setapp.com as I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. Yeah,
we'll put that in there.
Quite a few apps in there.
There are, and there's some big names. Do you see the menu bar thing I was talking about?
If I look for it, let me put in search and by task menu, and let's see what we get. Menu bar X, iStat menus.
That's it.
Is the one that you're talking about. Yeah, that's the one. But bartender is in here.
Yep,
definitely. Which maybe I'll have to look at this and see. Maybe this is a better subscription than the one that I have for bartender.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, there is
250 plus apps. It says.
Yeah. For baseline, one Mac, $10 a month. Mac and 4 iOS devices, $12.50 a month. Power user, 4 Macs, 4 iOS devices, $15 a month.
Right. It's reasonable.
So
that's not bad.
No, especially if it's a bunch of apps that you're already using.
Right.
And you're paying separate subscriptions for each one of those. Definitely something to work.
Well, that's kind of what got me into that Fantasticalendar, because they've got a couple different calendar apps in there, and I was like, well, could I get by with one of those even if I didn't want to use Apple's calendar app? But anyhow, so I think that wraps us up, Jeff.
It does, Tom.
All right, you want to take us home with the closing credits?
Sure, absolutely. So as usual, our great show music, Psychokinetics, Celsius 7, highly recommend that you check them out on wherever you stream your music from. It's Apple Music for me. We have Random Art Design, who has done the fantastic job of making us look like robots and look better than we do in real life. Leah Reich would be happy to tell you that, as she was here with us. And I just want to point out that this is not anybody that does anything for us, but the Dungeons in the Attic podcast is now on all your streaming apps. So if you're listening to them on Apple, or you're listening to them on Spotify and you want to listen to them on Apple Podcasts, they're there. And they're doing a great interview series right now. So interviewing their cast members. So highly recommend that you check them out. Dungeons in the Attic, the Dita podcast, just because they record in my basement.
They do. Sometimes to your chagrin. But.
There's fair.
Okay. Yeah. All in love, though.
Absolutely. Tom, where can we get stuff of yours?
Let's see. You can find me on Threads at Tom Anderson. That's basically where I post these days. Newsletter, Tom F. Anderson, a little different there. TomFAnderson.com/newsletter. And
what does the F stand for, Tom, besides what I say about you behind your back?
That's pretty much what it is.
As always, good to talk with you, Tom.
You too, sir.
Enjoy our time together.
All right, so that is going to close us out for this episode. And as we frequently say, and we always mean, we do appreciate you spending some time with us. We know there are tons of places you can go for these types of discussions on apps and Apple stuff and everything. And so we're honored to spend a little bit of time with us. We will talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Until then, take care.
See ya.